Hey guys, so the video that I posted right before this one was actually the tail end of a very long video I made about my whole experience with the specific person stuff, and I decided it was just way too long and detailed. If you're like that into it that you're gonna watch a 45-minute video on it, just go back to the beginning of this channel and you can see all the details because they're all there. Because the vast majority of my direct, aware, observing experience with the SP thing has happened on this channel. But so I thought I would run through it really quickly. I would try to run through it really quickly. And then after that, I want to talk about a message I just got on Reddit about this exact thing. So there have been 4 people that in my life that I can think of that have been sort of in a subject of, or the object of my intention. 2 of them came out of the ether. 2 of them I knew already. So first and foremost, I'm going to say that manifesting somebody out of the ether has to be the easiest thing that I've ever done. If you don't have a specific identity, if you just know specifically what you want and not specifically who you want, this is so easy. For all you know, the person is just created on the spot at some other geographical location by divine intelligence, given a backstory, and just delivered up to you. I mean, that's how fast these things both happen to me with the non-specifics. So for me, it's incredibly easy to dream somebody up and have them appear. It's just, that's like, I don't even have to be involved in that other than knowing that it will happen and having somewhat of a specific idea of what I want. And the more ready you are for that thing to show up, in my experience, and I only have 2 experiences, but the one that I was completely ready for at the moment that I dreamed it up and put it out there showed up immediately within a few days. The other one, it took me 6 months to get to a point where I was kind of ready to see, I had several kind of sort of big life events that resolved themselves in the 6 months between when I knew that they were going to show up and I accidentally dreamed up who they were, and when I was actually able to go, oh, it's him. So that's my fiance I'm referring to. And my ex, who's like one of my best friends, if not my very best friend, is the other one. And he showed up in 3 days. So quickly, let me just touch on those 2, on the specifics. Actually, my fiance, I just made a video about this. I'll link to that. But for my ex, who I was with for 7 years, and then now we broke up about 8 years ago. So we've known each other since 2008. The way that came about was I had a friend, I still have a friend, who I had dated in my early 20s briefly, and we weren't good for each other. We had totally different lifestyle, big age difference, totally different interests. Just, we were not a match in either direction, I don't think. But I just love this guy to this day. We have this connection where you don't talk for like 5 years and then somebody can pop out of nowhere and it's just like, hey bestie, how's it going? You know what I mean? It's just one of those connections that for me makes this whole fucking thing worth it. You just have this positive regard. It's just somebody that is connected to you for no good reason. You don't have the especially at first, the 3D experience with this person to justify the level of comfort and connection that you feel, that kind of thing. So on June 30th, 2008, I went out to dinner with this particular person, and just sort of bathed in the vibe of this feeling of, unconditional friendship and appreciation and just this great feeling. And then we went our separate ways. I was in kind of a low point in my life at that point. I was kind of broke. I just got out of a bad relationship. And so I was just sort of in this empty place. And when I got home from that dinner, I thought, you know, I adore that guy. I would like to have somebody like that, but who's in my life every day. Because I knew it wasn't going to be him. We didn't have that kind of relationship. We didn't have that enough in common to have that kind of frequent everyday interaction. And I was like, I want that feeling. I want that feeling with a person, but I want it to be somebody that's in my life every day. And 3 days later, I met my now ex-boyfriend, who has, since nearly the first minute that we knew each other, felt like a long lost member of my family. And I think because we were both young and, you know, we built a business together shortly after we met, and it's the one that supplies us with a very nice income to this day. I think we had some business to take care of. I think we were kind of attracted to each other in that way. And, you know, the relationship ran its course, and we broke up and remained friends and remained in business together. And, you know, from the beginning, we were more friends than anything. So that was what I needed at that point in my life. That's why that feeling felt so good to me. And just knowing exactly what I wanted, because I had just left a dinner with somebody where it felt exactly how I wanted, made it incredibly easy for that to happen. I was completely clear on what I wanted. I was completely clear on that I wanted it. I was completely ready for that to show up. It wasn't like, I want to marry this person. It was just like, I want this person in my life every day. Boom, there it is 3 days later. Still here to this day. The exact embodiment of the thing that I wanted. This feeling, but every day. I don't know why it came out in my mind that way, or why that was like the manifestation, but that's what happened. So I met him July 3rd, and that was like June 30th. So a matter of days. And then with Matt, my fiance, same thing, kinda. I had a good feeling about what I wanted. It was a feeling of security and being cared for. That's what I wanted from a husband. That's how I wanted to feel with my husband. I knew I was going to get the right relationship. He showed up in my life. Matt showed up in my life. I want to say also within days of that sort of defining what I wanted in my imagination, kind of on accident. He showed up almost right away. It's nice that we started talking on Reddit, and it's really funny because he saw some people attacking me on Reddit, like outwardly attacking me, and kind of came to my defense, which is sort of what I was just saying. Like, you know, I want somebody who kind of looks out for me. That's the first time I knew of his existence was him defending me on Reddit. And then, and my response to him, you know, we talked a little more like here and there publicly on Reddit. I wrote a response to him almost immediately on something that said, you really remind me of like the guys that I have in my life, like my ex, that's my friend, my dad, my brother. You're like a part of my people. You feel like a part of my wolf pack. And here we are, we're engaged. Had no idea who he was. It took, after that point where he showed up in my reality, it took another 4 or 5 months after that before we ever had a conversation outside of Reddit where like some interest was sparked on my end. I don't really know what was going on his end, but I just didn't, for whatever reason, you know, well, I had things going on in my personal life that are documented in detail on this channel romantically. So I wasn't really looking for that. And I didn't see him until those things had resolved, until I had got more clear on what it was that I wanted. Then all of a sudden, here he is. We have a conversation. All of a sudden, I'm just like, wait, this guy's been around for, why wasn't I, where did this guy come from? He's been around, but I didn't see him. That was the reaction that I had to Matt when we finally started talking, which I think is kind of cool. And I think supports a lot of the stuff that I say on this channel that I said prior to that happening. So those are the two that just came out of the ether, and it was like right away, when they did not have to come in the form of a person that I already knew. But I also did have intentions, not at the same time, but successively, with 2 other people. And I want to preface talking about this at all with saying that I was not in a mental state of lack or feeling unworthy or unlovable or trying to rectify a wrong or scarcity or any of that when I first started reading about people doing the specific person thing. I did some imaginal stuff with the specific person thing before I really, kind of out of curiosity, just to see it, just kind of test it, since I had already done so much stuff with intention and visualization and certainty and knowing and action and all of that. I was really, curious. I was really confused. Like it was sort of the first time that I allowed myself to really kind of go there, because I don't like the idea of controlling people. It's just not really for me. Other than like manifesting a totally willing partner out of the ether, which I don't see any issue with at all. Just the idea of taking a person that things did not work with and trying to mentally make that thing work. This just doesn't, it's just not something that I would naturally do. So this was out of character for me to do this. And so I had a relationship. I'm gonna try to be really brief on this. It's already 12 minutes long. I had a relationship that had ended not long before I started reading Neville Goddard, which was the only reason I ever got into the specific person thing at all to begin with. And that relationship had ended. It was the right thing for me to do. There was no problem with that. I had a series of personal revelations relating to beliefs that I had about my own self-worth, which are profound. I mean, if you are carrying around the idea that you are flawed, that you've made good with your life, but that you are truly deep down flawed, if you have stuff like that, it will come out in some way. And for me, it came out in my choice of partner and my idea about what was possible for me and all of that stuff. And when I worked through that, and when I realized it and realized where it came from and used my adult self to understand the error of my ways, it cleared up a lot of stuff for me. And that's where I was when I found Neville. So I had this relationship that had still been a part of that whole prior mentality. It ended. I really liked this guy. I really loved him, actually. We went through some intense, he had some very rare medical issues crop up during the relationship. He was 7 years younger than me. And it created this intense thing that was a pretty big bonding thing. And so it was rough. And when the specific person thing came into my, curiosity and just kind of made me wonder, I decided to do some stuff with that regarding that guy. And the biggest part of what I did, I started out with the whole imagining a ring on your finger, but I was just like, I don't know if I want to be married to this guy. I certainly didn't when I broke up with him 4 months ago. So I stopped that pretty fast. And I really just went with the only thing that I 100% could get behind, which was imagining him in his absolute best state. Imagining him absolutely happy, completely at peace, having completely resolved all of the issues that I believed he had. I just had what I knew to go on. And I just imagined him radiating this sense of peace and happiness. That was like my imaginal scene, in a way. It's what I experienced in my imagination. And it was amazing. I think I made a post about it on Reddit. It felt like it healed me. I felt so light and happy afterwards. And I did this for a few nights, and then I just didn't want to anymore. I was full of it. It's like what Neville says about the Sabbath. You will experience this thing in your imagination. Experience it now. Experience it fully to have the experience. And then you will have it, and then you'll stop wanting to have it. You'll have had it, and you'll be good. You'll be full. You'll be satiated. And that's what happened to me. And so after that, that was all I ever did for that. And in 3D, you know, I was talking to people. I had some friends in the community or whatever that I was chatting with, Robbie, Bobby, Scotty, who I've mentioned on this channel. And, you know, I was impatient about it. I was just like, is this going to, like, produce something? Like, what's happening? You know, I kind of, like, expected some sort of magical thing to happen. And it didn't. And I was like, man, this is really frustrating. You know I did this right. Like, I did it before I had even read what the Sabbath was. I'm like, this is what I just did. So it has to have done something. But I don't feel like sitting around and waiting for it, because this isn't like, you know, for me, people are just not something that you attach to that degree. You have to be willing to allow people to just be, I think, if you're going to be peaceful. And so I didn't want to keep thinking about this. I didn't want to keep, like, you know, I had bigger fish to fry. And so I found it very annoying. Plus I didn't, like, know that I wanted to be with this person. I had really just, like, in my mind kind of healed this person. And so I don't know. Quickly, I kind of lost interest in it at almost the same time that a second person, whose identity I knew, sort of started to stir up some shit in my life. It was somebody else also that I had known from before I had these, like, personal revelations and changes that were very pronounced mentally. This was somebody who I had briefly dated, and then I just couldn't deal with, we just couldn't come together. Like, it wasn't a match. The dating style wasn't a match. And that, you know, I'm not blaming anybody for that. I was coming from kind of a desperate state at 39. And so when we came together in the beginning, you know, I was just like, look, I don't have any time to waste. Like, we had this big connection. It was totally organic and legit. I was, like, crazy about this guy. And it just, you know, I was just like, I don't have time for this. Like, if you don't want to just move forward, I got to go. And that was basically, you know, in a much more torturous way, that was basically how it went down. Like, it was not easy for me to do that. And we had reconnected and become friends that talked almost every day a little later that year. So throughout this whole thing. And as I went through these revelations about myself and I changed, the way he treated me changed drastically. And right about the time that I was like, the SP thing is just really annoying. I don't want to be thinking about this or waiting for something that I don't even really want. That's when this friend started coming at me romantically, telling me that he loved me and that, you know, whatever, basically ratcheting it up a notch, like being more intense about the things that annoyed me the year before, while still being unwilling to, like, get into a relationship. It was ridiculous. By the way, this was not a casual sex thing ever. It never happened. Lest anybody be like, oh, he was just fucking you. No, that is not at all what it was. That never even happened a single time. So, yeah. Anyway, the way that ended up playing out was I had some intentions with him. You know, I was like, I value this person. I love this person. I have romantic feelings for this person, though I don't feel like it's going to work out. I'm willing to open my mind and just intend for this to resolve. Like, whatever the problem is here, either resolve in a direction where we can have a relationship together and be happy, or resolve so that we can be friends, or resolve that we can't have anything to do with each other. I was like, look, I'm fine with any of those. I completely trust the right outcome to happen, because I have faith. And so how that played out was, after I had that intention, a coronavirus lockdown happened. He ended up coming and staying with me for 6 weeks. Throughout that time, our relationship obviously changed. I definitely, throughout that time, started to kind of think that maybe, you know, it really wasn't what I wanted in my heart. You know, what I wanted was a new partner where things were good from the beginning, and where there was certain things just never happened, certain inconsiderations or not caring about how they impacted me. I just wanted to be with somebody where that didn't happen. That wasn't like part of the history, you know. And that started to come up more for me during that time. And when he left and went home, you know, things just kind of like, we had some fights and stuff, and then we didn't talk for a long time. And so that was where that ended up at the end of like the lockdowns in May of that year. During this time, I had texted with my SP, and he had indicated to me some things that this healing thing that I did had an effect, which I found really interesting. He asked me if I would get together with him to have a drink, and I said no. I just didn't want to. But he volunteered some information. You know, he told me that he was unable to continue having a certain type of substance issue due to an interaction with some medication that was related to that intense medical experience. So he kind of like let me know that he wasn't drinking anymore. And I just thought that was kind of weird. Like, why do I need that information in this little snippet of time that we're talking? So I thought that was interesting, because that was one of the things that would have had to go for him to be in this state of happiness. And he also, later around the time that, you know, things were kind of blowing up with my friend, the SP told me that he had some realizations about not really knowing who he was and feeling like kind of a shell of a person, and, you know, just all this stuff that was part of what I felt needed to heal in him. Because of course I detected all of that stuff when we were together, you know, that he didn't really know who he was or what he wanted, and was kind of lost and didn't feel good about where he was in his life or who he was. And so all that stuff was like in my imaginal healing thing that I did. And so he told me essentially, I've become aware of all of this stuff, which I thought was pretty crazy, because I hadn't heard a word of that when we were together. It was, you know, none of that. So finally, what the resolution for both of these people, which happened, I want to say within like 2 weeks of each other, the friend basically said to me, you know, I was under the impression you wanted one thing. I think you actually want this other thing, and let's give it a shot. I'm willing to be in a committed relationship with you. So that was I think, validation part of that thing, but I didn't want it anymore. So we didn't end up getting together. And eventually when I met Matt and I told my friend about this, he took off like a drag racer trying to outrun the cops. Like, he was just gone. Whatever friendship and value I had seen in like the time we spent together during lockdown, all that stuff, it was just gone. He was just gone. There was no being friends, even though that is what he insisted we had been the whole time everything was going down. So I don't know, you know, he texted me a few more times after that. I never responded to the last one, and I haven't talked to him since. So that's how that played out. And with the SP, I don't know what would have happened if I had completely followed that through and just waited for him and just continued to focus on or introduced an intention of like us being together, because that really wasn't the main part of what I did with that person. But what happened with that, the notable incident that happened with that, was that around the same time, and this is right after I met my fiance, like a week or two after we started like really talking, my SP, I told him I didn't think we should talk anymore. And he, at that time, told me a bunch of stuff, that he thought I was perfect for him, that he had been planning to go to the place where we first met on the day that we met, which was only a few days later, and to see if I would also show up and there would be some kind of romantic reunion or something. So that was happening. Will it happen for you if you do this? I don't know. But you know, I consider the strange and kind of what I think are improbable things that happened with each of those things to be a strong indicator that it does, it does do something. That imaginal act and that feeling of the Sabbath was enough. It created a change in reality. And those were the signs of life of that in both of those people. But I didn't want either of those things. The SP thing was, I felt like no harm, no foul. What's the worst I can do if I imagine this person being in the form that they would need to be in for me to want to be in the relationship? Whether or not that was irresponsible or I didn't follow that through, I don't know. People had a lot of opinions about that, especially at the time that I posted some updates about that. And as far as my friend goes, I don't know. All's fair in love and war. I wanted the resolution of the situation. I was in no way attached to it being us ending up together. Shit went down that I had no control over, like lockdown, and it revealed to me what I really wanted, which was the right guy. So I had the option. It certainly appears that I had the option of either of those two things, and I'm sure in no small part thanks to the intention and the faith about it. But yeah, I just didn't want either one. So I don't know if that's encouraging or discouraging or irrelevant to you, or if you don't think that counts. There have been many people who have said that I failed my SP manifestation, which I guess I did. I mean, I guess if the only way you can view something as being successful is if you end up married to somebody, even if you don't want to be, I guess I failed. But anyway, that's been my experience with manifesting people, and I don't do anything about that anymore. I just have bigger fish to fry, especially when it comes to me. I would rather manifest things about myself. I would rather intend for changes in myself and watch the way those changes create everything in the outer reality. So, okay, this video is 27 minutes long. The other one was 45. I'm going to consider that a success. Hope that this helped somebody. I didn't get to the Reddit email thing. I think I will just do a separate video for that. So have a great day.